I hired 3 interior designers to come to my house for an hour, evaluate my space, and I'm going to compare what they said. What's up guys, it's Lexi. Welcome back to my channel. This is the video that you guys voted on for this week. I posted a poll on my Instagram story asking for votes, and the 2 options were I talked to 3 palm readers and compared what they said, or I hired 3 interior designers and compared what they said. And this is the one that you guys voted on. I struggle with interior design immensely. I find it stressful. I do not find it fun. The idea of having a fixer-upper home when I'm older seems like a nightmare, unless that's something like my husband's into. I'm not opposed to it, but like on my own I would never do that. I much prefer graphic design, fashion design, interior designs. Like no. I don't know why though. You'd think I'd like it. I would think I'd like it, but I don't. So what I decided is it's been too long. I've lived in this apartment for 5 months and haven't done enough with it at all. I have extra space on the walls that's not being utilized. I don't even think I'm putting furniture in the right place to maximize space. I hit a wall. Like I don't want to do this anymore. I want my apartment to be cuter. What am I trying to say? What am I trying to say? Let me gather my thoughts. Interior design is not my forte. It's because interior design is not just about how a space looks, it's about how a space functions. If you tell me get a desk, I will find a beautiful desk that I love. My problem is here's a room, where would the desk work the best? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just good at picking out the cute desk. So I brought in the professionals. What I'm gonna do is, to make it easier on you, give you a tour of my apartment first. Then we're gonna meet back here and explain to you what each designer said. Here we have the entryway. We have purses and coats on here, and then I had little hooks that I hung for keys and headphones and whatever. But there's still so much junk that arises, and it all ends up coming into the kitchen. I love this kitchen. It's probably one of my favorite parts about the apartment, but because there's a lack of storage space, this ends up becoming the dining table, the like catch-all entryway, mail that just came in. This is my desk where I do schoolwork. Sunglasses and keys and mail goes here, and then I have my makeup here, and it's just a mess. These deserve 4 different spaces, but they're all happening not just on the kitchen table. Like this is also the physical kitchen where like the stove is right here. You can see I have like my tripod above the fridge. Oh, this is my favorite thing in the whole world. I collect little glasses. Oh, and then here we have the eyesore of the broom, the mop, and the vacuum. So I want to do something with this because it's UGLY. So the couch and the light and the coffee table and the credenza don't offer any storage. So everything just ends up getting shoved underneath here. There's just a lot of clutter, and then something else that's become really cluttered is our books. And the balcony's great, but it doesn't offer any storage. And we get really good natural light. Like we're in a corner apartment, so like John has 2 windows, and then we obviously have the window here, and then in my room we also have a window, which is fantastic, except for it takes away one wall in your room to put anything against. I have all my shoes here, and this is not looking any good. Like, and then this wall is a mess. Like, who did this? These aren't even lined up properly. These aren't even lined up properly. This one's lower. And over here is my dresser. And this is sort of like that chair concept. You know when you've worn a shirt for like an hour and you're like, it's not dirty enough to go in the hamper, but it's not clean enough to fold again. So that began like being put here, and then it just piled up, and then I came back from Hawaii and I just put all my clothes here, and it's just, it's the truth. So that's that. The last part of the apartment would be the bathroom. It's fine in terms of storage. I got this cabinet installed on the wall, and then this offers a good bit of space. It's just not clean, that's all, and I have bins for underneath. So that part I feel like I can fix up myself. But we'll see what anyone else has to say. This is what I'm working with. I would say my apartment design right now is a 4 out of 10. And I want it to be a 10 out of 10. We'll see what happens. I hired all of my designers on TaskRabbit for 1 hour. Used the app for each one of them to find them. They all had about the same reviews. They all had really positive reviews. And they ranged in prices about $10. That wasn't planned, that just happened coincidentally. The first guy I hired, we messaged the night before, and he asked for some photos of my apartment, and so I sent him some, and then he showed up in the morning with notes. The man had a plan. He looked at the space and instantly was ready to begin. Very professional, eager, excited, positive attitude, a little judgmental. He worked as a professional organizer as well as a designer and a decorator, and he came in and looked at my room, and the first thing he asked me is like, what are your main things that you're looking for? I'm looking for a workspace and I'm looking for more closet storage, because currently in my apartment I work at the kitchen table, which is really frustrating because I can't leave it there permanently if I'm in the middle of a project, but it's dinner time, like I have to clear it off because people are gonna eat there, or vice versa. Like, it's just, I would like a permanent workspace. And then I also just have a ton of handbags and shoes and pants and tops and workout gear and bras and underwear, and I just have a lot of wardrobe related things, and I have a pile of clothes on the floor. First thing he came in, he said shelves are the biggest thing without having to use any floor space. He really emphasized using the vertical and using the air, trying to keep as much as possible off the floor, which I've heard. I've watched some like organizing videos before on YouTube, and that's a pretty common theme for tips. For my bedroom, he gave me two options. One, I can leave my dresser, or I can replace it with like a 6-foot armoire, and that could give me even more storage than I already have. However, I told him this dresser is new and I like it, so he suggested replacing the full-length mirror out in the living room and replacing that space with a 6-foot armoire that has a mirror door. That way I still get the full-length mirror, but we can also store board games and art supplies and things that we have sitting out in the living room that doesn't need to be on display. And then the credenza. John and I are similar in the sense that like we have our taste. We want things to be pretty. So our living room right now is really cute. The green rug, the little decorative lamp, and our little credenza, which looks like a credenza, but it's actually not. It's a vintage record player and radio. We've never used, not even once, since moving here. Designer number one asked me what I had inside there, if we could go through it and organize, and I was like, oh, that's a record player. He's like, it's a what? It's like, it's a record player. And he's like, that's cool. You have stuff on top of it. How do you use it? I was like, oh, we don't. You could feel like the steam coming out of his ears as a professional organizer and designer, just being like, what? You're wasting that much of your tiny ass apartment wall space for this record player that you're not using? Like, you idiots. He tried to keep himself calm. He was like, would you think about getting rid of it? I was like, oh, it's not mine. He's like, oh, it's your roommate's. Well, would your roommate think about getting rid of it? And I was like, I don't know. I think he kind of likes it. He's like, well, what do you put in his room? I was like, I don't think he has room. And he's like, well, what about moving it? I was like, maybe. He's like, why would you not? So we came up with a compromise. He said, why don't you move it next to the kitchen? The wicker from where the speaker is will match the wicker on your bar stools, and then you can put things on top of it or use it as needed, and then get a new credenza to put items in. I said, I'll think about it. I didn't clean up at all for him, so he definitely started making like little jokes. There were certain things that I left out that he definitely noticed, and then when it would come to him being like, yeah, just get baskets to put, you know, this or that in, and I was like, funny. He referenced Marie Kondo, the life-changing magic of tidying up, like 2, 3, maybe more times. I was like, I've read the book, I've done it. You can look at my drawers. I fold it the way that she folds it in her book. I just don't follow every rule. One of the coolest ideas he had is that on this wall right here, which is the dumbest wall ever, you saw it in the tour, get a floating desk. That would be so cool. We measured it out to see if it would work, and I love that idea. My second favorite idea that he had is for my mop and my vacuum and the broom that are sitting in the kitchen that are a total eyesore. I have a balcony that I didn't show in the tour, but out here, and you can walk out the door and there's a balcony space, and he was saying right there out on that wall to get a storage wardrobe that's weatherproof from Home Depot or something, and put those things out there, because realistically we only use the broom like once a week, and it's not hard to access. It's like it's basically like within reaching distance of where I am right now, and as long as it's weatherproof, it would keep everything safe, and then it would get that out of the way of our kitchen, and I love that idea. He left me with a more organized note. He came in with more like chicken scratch, but then he said living room, get a storage unit at the end of the kitchen counter, put shelves above the couch, and then bedroom, floating desk, outdoor storage shed that's weatherproof, baskets or clear plastic containers for under the bed, floating shelves with spotlights. How did I not bring that up? Oh my god, that was really cool. He noticed I don't have a nightstand. What he suggested is that I put shelves underneath my bed, but get shelves with the spotlights that are lights that come underneath the shelf, and you can switch them on and off as long as you have an outlet nearby, which I do. and that'd be so cool. He came with images on his phone that he thought would be helpful as well, with links to shop. I mean, this man was a man with a plan. Yeah, hooks for the closet door. Hooks for the left closet door. Vertical coat rack for purses. I remember he airdropped me a photo of that as well. So that was designer number 1. 10 out of 10 for $45. I think it was well worth the money. He was very prepared, loved his attitude, just a little cutie. I could see myself hiring him again once I have pieces and maybe having him help me with assembly or just organizing the overall pieces. So I'd had such a good experience with designer number 1 that I had high hopes for designer number 2. And she rolled up real calm, cool, collected energy. Came into my room, was like, okay, what do you need help organizing? I was confused because I had messaged her ahead of time. I don't need any physical labor. I'm just hiring you for an hour to evaluate my space. So she comes in, she's like, what can I help you organize? I'm like, oh, nothing. And she's like, yeah, so you just want like where to put things? And she comes out and she has her hands on her hips and she's looking around. She's like, shelves. You could put shelves on this wall right here. You could put shelves on this wall right here. You could put shelves on that wall right there. I was like, okay, yeah. Any ideas for the living room? And she points to the couch and she's like, you could put like some shelves above there. Maybe put like a shelving unit there. I'm like, okay. Anything else? She points to the full-length mirror. And she's like, you could do like little shelves for the books right there. I was like, is this real? Are we kidding? I kind of am expecting her to take a little bit more lead just because the first designer had taken such a lead, but she definitely was taking the follow stance in our relationship and was looking for me for direction. And I'm over here like, don't you understand I hired you because this is my weakness? Like, I'm so bad at this. Tell her my problem areas. I let her know the 2 main things I'm looking for in this space is a way to incorporate a workspace and a way to incorporate more storage for my wardrobe. So she sees the art supplies on the floor and she's like, so this is like clutter? I was like, oh yeah, totally. And she's like, well, you have some room in your closet, right? So she picks it up and she puts it on the closet shelf and like squeezes it in. And it's still up there. I'll show you. Here, we can take a little field trip. So see how I have 3 bins up here and then I had 3 bins down here, and she just kind of squeezed this in. So now these are all too tight and like really hard to get out. And she just pushed it in and was like, okay, good to go. I have 2 more of these, and she's like, well, you have under the bed storage, right? So she just put them down here. I'm like, okay, this is not very helpful. I try to guide her away from it. I'm like, you know, we don't need to do this. So I take her out of my room and we go back to the main space and we're talking about my different pain points in the kitchen. I was like, well, definitely shouldn't have a vanity on my kitchen. I know that's a problem that I shouldn't have. So she's like, well, why don't you put it on the bathroom shelf? And I was like, oh, the vanity is too large. She just does it anyway, and she's like cramming makeup into the drawers, not organizing them. That's what I'm so confused about, because you're a professional organizer, and she was just cramming things into a space, like just hiding it. I'm like, okay, great, but that doesn't actually solve the problem. Her kind of standing with her hands on her hips and me kind of like smiling and nodding. You can go early, it's fine, don't worry about it, I think I'm good to go from here. And she's like, well, I'm sorry I don't have too many more ideas, like I hope I was of some help. And I was like, I appreciate your time, like thank you so much for coming here. So she took off. Yeah, she put the art stuff in the closet, told me about shelves, and I paid her $40, so it was only $5 less than the first person. It was 2 completely different experiences. So 2 hours later, I had my 3rd and final designer come, and he was a little cutie. He was very eager. He also was working on TaskRabbit as a mover, so he was very keen on letting me know that if I bought any things, like he would help me make it, build it, move it, carry it, discard of anything. Like, he was very good at that. Okay, you should get drawers for underneath your bed and you can slide things in and out. That way you don't have to crawl underneath all the way of your bed to get anything. He also suggested moving my dresser to where that weird wall is right there, and then putting a desk where I am right now. My only like minor issue with that is that this is my perfect little filming space. As you've now seen the tour, you can imagine that you're sitting on my dresser, and I love it, but it's a good idea. Then the 3rd designer started to repeat a lot of the things that the first designer came up with, and I felt like I had started to get my desired response. The reason that I hired 3 is because I figured if more than one said it, it was probably like a smart thing to do. I think I have some preferences of my own that I've learned, but I would love to hear in the comments what you thought was the most creative idea, what you think I should do with my apartment, and if you have any additional space saving tips. I'm sure I'm not the only one living in a small space right now. It's very early 20-something to be living in a tiny ass apartment, so I'm sure me as well as other viewers would love to hear your tips. What I would like to follow up with is a 48-hour room transformation video once I've completed the finishing touches on my apartment. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Follow me on Instagram to vote in the next video poll so you can decide, except for I already know the next three videos that I'm posting. One's a little bonus video that I think you guys are going to be a little bit surprised about, because you're gonna be like, oh, I didn't know she was a fan of her. Interesting. And I will see you guys very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you. Bye.